Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. My guest today is Melissa Delgucci, and I'll ask her for the correct way to say her last name. But Melissa overcame addiction 14 years ago, and now she strives to help others maintain a healthy lifestyle. She is certified with over 500 hours of yoga training, as well as specialty areas like children's yoga and mindfulness, having 10 years experience in the corporate world and also studying psychology. Melissa knew she needed a career that would change people's lives. And she took a leap of faith and decided to embark on becoming a certified yoga instructor. Also, she has a special place on Long Island, Yoga for Health. And Melissa is known for her gentle ways of making others feel comfortable and eager to learn. Her goal is to create a safe and comfortable environment while facilitating all aspects of health and wellness. And she is happy to bring mental and physical wellness to communities, especially on Long Island. Her website is Think Wellness NY, such as thinkwellnessnewyork.com, and we'll have a live link to it that you can visit after the show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on the show today.
Now, I found you because I've been working for many years with people who are involved in programs that Alex Limbarsky brings to Long Island. So you were listed on one of those.
Yes, one of my staff members, Debbie, she knows Alex very well, so she has been connecting with him, and I'm assuming that's how we got our link to Alex here.
Well, that's what I do. I often look because he takes the time to really connect with people who are involved in the health and wellness field, particularly on Long Island. But nowadays, things are very non-local because you can usually do so many things on Zoom. But that's how I found you. And I thought that the work that you did looked really interesting, and I wanted people to know more about it. So let's go back in time. When you were a little girl, were you interested in health and wellness?
Actually, I wasn't. I was, your typical teenager who liked to snack and eat junk food and things. And it wasn't something that was on my radar. It wasn't until I met my husband, he was 5 years younger at the time. He was 20 and I was 25. And he really just started opening my mind to a whole different world. I went from, smoking cigarettes, drinking soda, to eating all organic, starting to exercise, just really changed my habits. So it was really eye-opening for me.
Well, that's fantastic because a lot of people never make that transition and unfortunately, wind up suffering through many other situations. But you shared in your bio that you also had an issue with addiction.
Yes, from an early age, from about 14 to 21, I really struggled with addiction. I had gone through some childhood trauma. I was raped as a young lady, some different, horrible experiences that led me to kind of self-medicate. And at 21, which is such a young age to get sober, I really started getting involved in a local church and just wanting to change my life. I met my first son's father, who I'm no longer with, but, he gave me a blessing of my first child, and it really helped me to get on a new path. I wasn't technically, on a wellness path yet, but I had overcome addiction. I became a mom and just became more of a normal person in society. So it was definitely a turning point in my life.
Well, I think that's, wonderful story because it's not easy. It is not easy. addiction, like you said, is a psychological thing that often occurs because people are trying to cover up pain. That's true of various kinds of emotional pain, physical pain, but it's also a physical addiction. So it's not that easy to just turn it off. I always have worked with many people who suffer with that, and there's the 12-step program. But in the end, many of them share, there's really only one step, and that's stop. And that is challenging.
Yes, I feel very blessed that there's no day that I know people struggle for the rest of their lives to stay sober. And, once I made that switch, I was done. My life changed. It was like a whole new lifestyle. So I'm really blessed that I don't even have, cravings or thoughts, even on my worst day when things are falling apart. It's just nothing, nothing brings my mind back to those things. So I'm just really grateful that it's an easy walk for me at this point. And I know people do struggle for their whole life to stay sober. And I just feel really blessed to be completely past it and just, not only surviving, I'm thriving now. And I think that's what makes the difference here is like, you can get sober, you can change your life, but are you starting to eat well? Are you making other changes to get you to an even higher point? And that's what I like to bring into some of our programs.
Well, that is inspirational. And tell us about your project that you do now. And of course, because of your background, you have so much compassion for others because besides, something that might be called an addiction, sometimes just overeating and eating junk food is also an addiction.
Yes, this is true. We have a couple different programs. Our recovery program actually focuses on addiction, and we do go further into it. It's not just drugs and alcohol. It's being addicted to TV, being addicted to social media, to money, to gambling. So it's really anything that you're struggling with that you're addicted to. So that program really focuses on how do we start to change these habits and create new ones? How do we change the mind? The mind is very powerful and we create a lot of habits throughout life. And the first step here, I believe, is learning to look at your thought pattern and understanding what do you do on a daily basis with these thoughts. Once you start to understand yourself, then you're able to learn how to start to convert them into more positive feelings and more positive activities. So that's something we work on in our recovery program.
Well, it's wonderful that you offer that. Now, tell me about thinkwellnessny.com. Is this like a physical place or is it an online program or what do you do there?
Sure. So I thought for a long time, how do we let people understand who we are? So for a very long time, we were Yoga for Health Long Island, and everyone thought we were just a local yoga studio. And we're the furthest thing from that. So this past summer, we changed our name to Think Wellness NY, which kind of makes people have to look into us a bit. Nobody knows just off the top of their head what Think Wellness means. So the best way I like to explain our company is we are a wellness service provider. And what that means is we can do virtual or on-site. So we go to schools, we go to nursing homes, we go to camps, to community centers. Everything we offer is on-site with the client or done virtually. So we do not have a physical location, but we are able to bring a lot of different life-changing skills to people to make it very convenient for them.
So you go on site to different businesses.
Correct. We also do in-home classes as well. We used to just be yoga, but I realized I want to offer wellness as a whole package. So now we have yoga, we have mindfulness, we have meditation, we have nutrition, we have art therapy, we have massage. We have so many different aspects of wellness that we're able to just create a whole program to either help employees, help senior citizens, the youth, those in recovery, and then as well as people in their own private homes.
Well, I'd like to tell our listeners that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and my guest today is Melissa, and she is from Think Wellness, New York, but how you look for that is thinkwellnessny.com. Melissa, help me with your last name.
Sure. So it's Del Judas in America. If you wanted to be fancy in Italian, you'd say Delgucci. So we usually stick with Del Judas.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure because, that last part. Anyway,
yes.
That's fine. But we can just say Melissa from thinkwellnessny.com and you will find her and her wonderful story. So how does that work? Because you go into people's homes to give them a yoga class. Now, what about online because of the whole pandemic and people not wanting things in their homes?
Right. And that's where the virtual piece came in. We usually did not offer virtual until this pandemic happened.
You and thousands of others, right?
Right.
It's been transitional, right?
Exactly. And now it just kind of gives us another layer here. So it's like if people are not comfortable with us coming into the home, we're able to do a virtual set so they can see us teaching the yoga. It's very personal, step by step. We specialize in beginners because a lot of people hear the word yoga and they're running for the hills. They're like, I am not a pretzel. I'm not flexible. I'm not a young girl, and my goal was always, how do I bring yoga to everybody who would not step foot in a yoga studio? So we're servicing everybody else on the island that doesn't go to their normal yoga studio.
So when you say beginners, we're going to start with things like, very gentle stretching and breathing.
Exactly. We don't bring any of the spiritual aspect into the yoga classes unless the client's looking for that. We do more of a practical approach. I work with people who are sitting at a desk all day. So we'll focus on how do you stretch the back? How do you make sure the hips are not tight? How do you work with the shoulders? We just really focus on the body and how we can kind of help them get through different aches and pains. So it's very practical and there's no, spiritual aspect to it at this point. Again, unless the client is looking for that on a personal level. But we're in schools and corporations, so our take is a bit different.
So when you say you're in schools and corporations, how do you market that to schools and to businesses? Is there flyers that you send and they know it's available? Would they bring you in like a day a week, or would they offer it to their employees or in schools?
Sure. So for the schools, we are on the Eastern, Western, and Nassau BOCES list, so the enrichment catalog. So schools can contract with us very easily. They can find our programs there. They usually have funds set aside for these type of programs. We focus a lot on SEL, so social emotional learning, stress reduction, different things that they're looking for to help their students and staff. So besides being on that BOCES list, we have an outreach team where we're emailing schools, we're sending packets to schools, just introducing what we do. And we're in about 10 schools right now. Some of the schools have us year round. Some will have us come in for a week of mindfulness, meditation, and yoga. Everyone has their own kind of customizable package. So it's really fun. The students get a lot out of it. We offer the schools a wellness report. So we do a survey with the students to try to gauge, the anxiety and the stress levels and things that are going on. And if the school has us come back every year, we're able to show how we're increasing, their tests. So they're doing better on test taking. They're doing better in sports. They're more relaxed. So we're really trying to create some data for these schools, showing them how our programs work.
That's interesting because my grandson is special needs, and he goes to a school called Eastern Suffolk BOCES, which is, of course, a big part of the BOCES program. And his teacher shared with me that they do yoga every day as part of their program. And it seems he loves it. She said it's been amazing, especially with the special needs children, in terms of their ability to sit down and relax and start their day.
Yes, and we actually have a program for special needs as well, where we have a few teachers that have, they have past experience with either working with the population or they were either teachers who worked in the special needs department. We take the ISS insurance, so we're able to go into homes. We do art therapy and yoga. And we find that, it really helps them to focus and get centered. It helps them to really connect with themselves and have self-control. We've seen really great things with that program.
Wow. I wonder if they're using you because, that is a BOSIS program. It's out in Sayville, the Sayville Elementary School, not Nassau.
Right.
But,
Yeah, that's not us, but we'd love to get involved with as many schools as we can and help as many children as we can.
But that's great. It's something that, and I have found too over the years since I actually started doing yoga in, let me see, it must have been about 1964. So it's been a few years, as in more than 50.
Right.
And definitely when I started, it was really about a spiritual focus and, in fact, let's say Eastern mysticism. And I found over the years that it has evolved to be more secular, which really is better in terms of people who consider themselves, let's say, Christian. They did not even want to hear the word yoga because they felt that it was, not in the Christ realm. But really, it has nothing to do with that. It's really just more internally body-centered.
Exactly. I agree so much. People hear yoga and they assume it's, an Indian philosophy or a religion that you're praying to Hindu gods. And that's one of the things we break down right away. We have an FAQ sheet that we give to the schools so that if there's parents that are concerned or, like you said, Christian, I'm a Christian myself. So I've, again, have adapted to switching from oming and chanting and doing these things to now let's just breathe and connect with our bodies. Let's learn what's going on in the body. Sometimes we get aches and pains and we could have caught it before it really happened if we were more in tune with what was going on. So we always offer different sheets of information to explain to people that we are not chanting to other gods. We are literally just, trying to learn more about ourselves.
Right. And the same thing, using that language shift, like you said, mindfulness. Many people talk about mindfulness instead of calling it meditation for that reason, even though, it's similar. But in mindfulness, it's about working with your own mind.
Right. Correct. And we even will go as far as saying guided imagery. We even, for the yoga, will say mindful stretching. We try to change it up a bit because, again, people hear certain words and they connect it to a spiritual practice when this can be a practical tool for anyone to really help them with their anxiety, their depression, and just becoming more centered and peaceful as a person. I mean, our world is very crazy right now. So if you have some tools in your toolbox to stay calm through the chaos, it's a much better ride here through life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And that's why thinkwellnessny.com can really help people deal with the intense amount of uncertainty. Oh my goodness, especially right now, every day we get different news about what to do, about, the various infections, and it's just so intense. And like you said, even the other addictions other than food and drugs and alcohol you brought up, which I think is extremely prevalent. How often do people look at their cell phone every day? I think a lot of people don't look at it. It's like all day.
Yes, it's such a lifestyle change here. I remember as a young girl, my mother, cell phones didn't exist. So I think of children now seeing their parents, glued to the phone, whether they're watching something important or informative, or they're just on social media. These children are just seeing that this is what life is. We stare at this, object. And I've made it a rule in my house that we, the only time we are on the cell phone is like if I'm doing something for my business or if the kids go to bed, because I just don't want my children to grow up thinking this is normal. I have a 12-year-old son. He does have a phone. Every kid in the middle school has a phone, but we have very good rules about it. He's definitely not addicted to it. It's really sad. People are they're missing their life that's right in front of them, all of these precious moments because of this cell phone. So again, mindfulness comes back into play where you're able to really catch yourself. What am I doing right now? I'm spending an hour here on social media when I can be engaging with my child. I could be doing a hobby that I used to enjoy, so we definitely look at other addictions going on in life and we try to help people to not only realize it, but then start to shift. So this is going to bring more happiness into their life.
That's definitely an important thing. I think this is it's an experiment. We've never had that before. It's not like you can say in the 17th century, we got through this electronic addiction. So it's a new thing. And that's really interesting that you offer that to people. What are some of the techniques that you could share right here for people who feel like they are, or their children are, something towards the word addiction to being on their phone or even on their computer on social media? And of course, it's been in the news with young girls committing suicide because somebody didn't like them on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. It's a scary world right now with the technology, with different negativity and things that are happening. So something that we like to utilize is the breath, right? Something that we do every day. We're breathing all day long, but it's something we don't check in with. We don't take a moment and say, how am I breathing today? What does my quality of breath look like? And it sounds like an odd concept, but once you start to connect again back to the breath, you can bring your mind to the present moment. They say that a lot of our depression stems from the past. So thinking about things that you should have changed, I could have done better, I wish I didn't go through this. That's our mind staying in the past. And then our anxiety usually stems from the future, the what if, or the unknown, or where am I going in this journey? These worries that aren't even reality, when you can come right to now, this moment. Am I safe? Am I okay? So the easiest way to do that is just starting to come back to breath. So a simple technique we would do is you close your eyes down and you just start to witness yourself breathing. It sounds, again, like a funny concept, but once you do it, your mind starts to come here into the moment. We have, on average, 50,000 thoughts in a day. So people will have a day where they feel completely exhausted and they did nothing physically. So this is the mind chatter that's going on. So the first step would be to just become aware of that mind chatter. Close your eyes down. Take a few deep breaths. When you breathe deep, it's going to help calm down your nervous system. It's going to help you come to the moment that you're really in, not the future, not the past, being right here in the moment. And that's what mindfulness is about. It's paying attention on purpose. That's the simplest definition. So a simple breathing technique would be to breathe in, hold your breath for a count of 2, and then a nice, slow, long exhale. And then you repeat. You breathe in, you hold the breath, and then you exhale slow. And as you practice this, even if you do it for 2 minutes a day, you're going to start to become more aware of yourself. You're going to have that moment to center, and you're going to see how you feel more peaceful and calm. So it's a practice. It doesn't come overnight. You have to learn to shift. So it does take time, but again, you have to start somewhere. So 2 minutes a day, doing this deep breathing and holding the breath for a moment is really going to help you to start bringing your mind into the present moment.
I often tell people to do that in the car. Turn their cell phone off, turn the radio off, and sit in the car just for a couple of extra minutes, because that's a place where, you can actually be alone and there's not a million things that are going to interrupt you.
Yes, exactly. We always make a joke about it. We say, you can do it while you're driving, just don't close your eyes.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't mean while you're driving. Get to wherever you're going 5 minutes before, or even go outside. I mean, if somebody's at home with a bunch of children, very often they do not have like a sacred space or even a quiet area just for them, for the adult. You're only talking about 2 minutes there, Melissa. Anybody could carve out that 2 minutes, even if you have to go to the bathroom and shut the door in there, which I have actually done at work. When I was working in an office and I really felt I needed a break, I would just go into the bathroom in the office area to have just a quiet space. But if you're talking about 2 minutes, even that measurably can change your breathing rate, can change your muscle tone, can quiet various endorphin release molecules in your brain. You can do so much just by shifting that focus.
Yes, I agree. People don't realize how connected to the breath we really are. I try to explain to children that, when you're angry or upset, notice how you're breathing. Are you breathing shallow? Are you breathing fast? What's going on in the body? And then when you're calm and you're ready for bed, how are you breathing then? Is it slow and deep and relaxed? So in these moments, we are able to actually control the emotions through the breath. If you are feeling angered or frustrated, you can take that moment, take that pause, and start to slow down the breath and connect back to it. And you'll see that you start to feel much better, even after a few deep breaths. So it's very important to connect to the breath. And again, like I say, nobody really checks in with their breathing throughout the day. It's just a natural thing that happens. So the more you become aware of it, the more you're going to be able to start to shift what's going on in your body and in your mind, just by paying attention to the breath.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. What's the best way for people to find you?
Sure. So, of course, our website, thinkwellnessny.com. You can also email us at info@thinkwellnessny.com. Our phone number is 1-855-505-7922. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you also, Melissa. It's been great to have a local Long Island person who's helping so many by being a beacon of light and relaxation. And we didn't even get into nutrition and the other things that you can help guide people about. But thank you so much for being our guest today. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. For further information, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamai at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.